You may be seated. Just a word of introduction before Shehan preaches. We've chosen 4 graduating seniors at All Saints Church to offer the sermon this morning. Our youth minister, Jeremy Langell, along with Isaac Relis, our assistant youth minister, have worked with them and looking at and opening the text and praying about it, talking about the preaching moment and what's involved. And I've met with all 4 preachers, one for each service also. And we are so graced to have these people who are thinking, feeling, trusting, faithful leaders to be our preachers today. So, will you please warmly welcome Shehan?
Hello, and good morning, All Saints. Many of you might know me or one of my parents, Shehan and Dietrich Wijesinghe. And for those that don't know any of us, my name is Shehan. I was born and raised at All Saints, and I just graduated from high school 22 hours ago. And I'm moving on to college, where I will be studying at Cal State University Northridge, working on a double major in music and environmental engineering. High school wasn't always a smooth cruise for me. The God I grew up with and the God my conservative school believed in were 2 separate things. My faith was frequently challenged by everyone at my school, causing a seed of doubt to grow in my mind. When I first read the reading from Peter, which talks about not being surprised at the hard times we go through, I immediately identified with it. At my school, there were many instances in which my understanding in faith was stretched and challenged. About 4 months ago, the Seattle Seahawks came to visit my school. They were on a tour giving motivational speeches to different schools from around the country. Boy, I've never heard Jesus' name used so many times in one speech. And listening to their speeches, I felt disheartened. Just a few days prior, I had cheered them on as they played against the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Now they were standing in front of me, telling me to accept Jesus into my heart, or else. I remember thinking to myself that if being Christian means to confine everyone into the categories of saved or not saved, then I would rather take my chances with the or else. Even though this line of thought was a spiritual challenge, I know that it played a role in helping me develop a stronger faith. Although school was often a challenging place for my faith, what helped me get through those years was the refuge I sought at All Saints and one of my teachers. In my high school, we were required to take Bible classes all 4 years. And after 3 years of generic theology classes, the seniors had the option to choose an elective Bible class. Since one of my college majors is a form of art and one of my favorite teachers was teaching the class, I chose to take theology in the arts. In this class, we explored how the different arts, music, theater, film, the fine arts, and dance are so very influential to our culture and to our Christian faith. My teacher believed that our world is a God-bathed world, that every second of the day, God whispers and communicates with us. He found that the strongest way to connect and discover God was in the things we experience every day. This is a lesson I feel All Saints already knows, expressed by the beautiful hymns and music from our choirs and instrumentalists, to the various dramas and all the other ways we worship together every Sunday. During one of the sections of the course, my teacher lectured about how suffering comes with the reality we live in, and used several movies coupled with the Bible to support his view. He said that instead of trying to flee from suffering, we should learn how to handle it, use it to strengthen our relationships, our character, and our faith. To me, suffering is to face fear or the unknown and to undergo some form of hardship. It is something we all come across. For instance, during my high school years, I dove as a hobby and to complete my required physical education credits. In my past 3 years of diving, I have always been hesitant and afraid to pull off and train harder dives because I did not want the pain that comes along with it. This year, though, I decided to, as my coach says, just wing it. I definitely feared the potential for experiencing pain. And as it turned out, I did experience some actual moments of pain. But I learned so much more and progressed much farther than I had over the previous 3 years of diving. My improvements allowed me to enjoy diving and connect with my peers on a much deeper level. Suffering, however, is experienced on many different levels. One of my heroes is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a man that willingly chose to stand up for social justice and fight against the tyranny of Hitler and Nazi Germany. Bonhoeffer stands out to me not only because of his determination to stop Hitler's regime, but also because he struggled with how to do it in a way that was morally acceptable. He eventually fled Germany, but after leaving, he still felt he had a calling to help the resistance. Bonhoeffer decided to go back to Germany, leaving his fiancée in order to try and stop the injustice happening within his country. He was captured and imprisoned for 1.5 years, and then executed at Flossenburg in April 9, 1945, 2 weeks before US soldiers liberated the concentration camp. Bonhoeffer was someone who faced the unknown, struggled with his ethics, and fought the injustices he faced in his lifetime. During his time in prison, Bonhoeffer wrote about his Christian ideals and beliefs and weaved it in with his experiences to create a beautiful and deep collection of letters. In one of his letters, he creates a metaphor using a specific style of music composition called polyphony. Polyphony consists of 2 or more melodies simultaneously within a piece. The polyphony has a central melody called cantus firmas, which means fixed song. Every melody begins and ends with the cantus firmus. Bonhoeffer exclaims that the love of God should be our cantus firmus. We can and do experience other things and have other melodies. For Bonhoeffer, though, the love of God is the building block on which all other melodies are built. My theology teacher showed us a video on YouTube where Glenn Gould, a famous pianist, plays the art of fugue, perhaps one of the greatest polyphonies ever created. As I was watching Glenn Gould embody his instrument, I noticed how separate and different the melodies were from each other, but how they both spiraled and drew inspiration from the cantus firmus. It was in that moment I realized why Bonhoeffer lived and fought the way he did. It was because he drew his inspiration, encouragement, and motivation from the deep cantus firmus of God's love. Bonhoeffer is one of my heroes, not only because he struggled and suffered through his faith, but also because the suffering and struggle never deterred him from seeking justice in an unjust time. He inspires me to work at and cultivate my faith into an infinite source of love and peace that can guide me my whole life. Like Bonhoeffer, I too have struggled deeply with my faith. It is difficult being one of the only liberal thinkers on campus. My internal struggle and obsession with finding the truth about Christianity caused my faith to suffer. People constantly challenged my faith, and I had to hold on to it firmly as others tried to pull it away from my grasp. During one of our many discussions about faith, my English teacher asked the question as to whether or not Christians should only have relationships with other Christians. I listened to all the practical reasons people gave, supporting or opposing the question. while taking careful notes on the occasional Bible verse people tacked on as their evidence. One of my classmates argued that Christians should only date other Christians and provided some well-thought-out reasons for her view. She said that a relationship is stronger and lasts longer when both parties are on the same page in terms of faith. I responded to her by saying that religious differences are not what create disagreements. Rather, what creates conflict are people who allow their religions and religious dictates to trump our common humanity. On a more personal note, I have experienced in my own family what happens when people place a higher value on conservative thinking than on just loving each other. I have learned how their narrow views can actually destroy relationships rather than build them. My uncles are a prime example of people who allow love to be the central melody in their lives. They were married about 5 weeks ago. It was one of the most beautiful ceremonies I've ever seen. All the different melodies in their life, music, flowers, family, and architecture, were shared and experienced throughout the entire day. I pitied the part of my family that believed that this marriage ceremony was an abomination. They chose a God of fear rather than a God of love, and have as their cantus firmas a melody that contracts and restricts rather than loves and includes. They missed an opportunity to listen to the different melodies and the cantus firmas I experienced at that wedding. At the reception of the wedding, a friend of my uncle's approached my brother and started up a conversation, asking questions about our lives. We explained what was going on in our lives and that we were going to get confirmed in a couple of weeks. Upon hearing this, he asked the question, "What church do we belong to?" We told him that we attend All Saints Church. He followed up by asking, "Isn't that the super liberal church in Pasadena?" My brother and I looked at each other and answered, "Yeah, that's our church." All Saint doesn't just define my faith. It has taught me about a God of love who remains present and active through the cantus firmus of my life. Even though I expect to face the same challenges in college in regards to my faith, I know that the struggles I faced in high school, counterbalanced by the deep love and support I've experienced at All Saints, have prepared me to face whatever challenges lie ahead. I know what my cantus firmus is, the deep love of God, available and present to everyone. Amen.